Hi, thanks again for joining me in this edition of Clear Thinking Digest. I'm still exploring this series of intelligence upgrade, where I'm helping you to understand the concepts, the strategies, and the approaches that can help you to upgrade your intelligence and then get to the top 1% of your career. I believe that if you're able to interpret information about the world in a certain way, using certain kind of skills and mindsets, cognitive skills and mindsets, if you are able to deploy them and utilize these resources, utilize these skills and this set of mindsets, you can predictably act in a certain way that will guarantee you the certain results that will get you to the top 1% of your career, your work, your business, irrespective of the area or industry that you find yourself. So this is what this intelligence upgrade series is all about, and that is what I've been exploring for some time now. Feel free to go to my channel on YouTube and on Facebook, go through the archive, check out for intelligence upgrade series. If this is the first video you're seeing on this, you'll see other videos where I've explored different concepts, theories, strategies, and approaches that can help you to get to the top 1% of your career. In the previous video, I started exploring the skill of control, which I believe is one of the most important skills that you need to get to the top 1% of your career, because irrespective of where you find yourself, you need to have control over certain elements and factors and forces that control the environment where you exist. If you don't have control over these factors, over these elements, you would find it very difficult, irrespective of your skill, irrespective of the level of your knowledge, or whatever you think that you have. If you don't have this level of control in your environment and in your understanding of how the world works, you will find it difficult to get yourself to achieve the level of success that you desire in your career. And in the previous video, I've explored that you need control in three most important areas of your career or of your business or work. Now, these three areas in which you need to exercise sufficient control are your skill, your work, and your environment. And in the previous video, I've explored how you can do this in your skill, how you can exercise control in your skill. In this video, I'm going to be explaining how you can exercise control in your work, which is the second area, but that is the most important place that you need to exercise control. So let's talk about work and how you can exercise control over it. For everything else, the most important thing that you need to understand is that for you to exercise control over your work, sufficient control over your work, you need to exercise control over your skill. I've explained in detail how you can do that in the previous video, and you can find a link up here if you're on YouTube or in the comment section on Facebook. Now, it is important for you to exercise sufficient control over your skill, because what makes you extraordinary in your work is your skill. For you to exercise control over your work, you need to make your skill indispensable. You need to make yourself indispensable. And how do you make yourself indispensable? For you to make yourself and your skill indispensable in your work, you need to make sure that the value that you're delivering is high premium. And in order for you to effectively deliver a high premium value, the law of demand and supply states that you need to ensure that your skill is rare and valuable. Like I explained in the last video, that your skill has two main challenges, two main competitions coming from the human skill innovation and technological innovation. If the skill that you're delivering to the market is affected by any of these two challenges, any of these two competitors, either from the human skill innovation or technological innovation, your skill is not going to be rare and it's not going to be valuable. So you want to make sure your skill is rare and it's valuable for you to exercise full control over your work. Now, how do you do this? I've explored in detail how you can ensure that your skill remains unassailed by the competition that comes from human skill innovation or technological innovation. But more importantly, what I want to emphasize here is that if you want to really make your skill rare and valuable, you need a fundamental principle that I've explored in detail in my upcoming book, Journey to 1%. And that fundamental principle is that you need to become an infinite learner. To become an infinite learner means that you have a set of skills and mindsets that gives you the capability to constantly reinvent yourself and continually stay ahead of the emerging trends. And for you to really do this, you need the extraordinary skills of an infinite learner, which keeps you infinitely updated and which keeps you with the right mindsets that you need to approach your work. As an infinite learner, you would possess long-term thinking. You would possess a historic futuristic mindset. You would possess an understanding that allows you to see life and your work as an infinite game and not just a finite game that you need to play that has a beginning and an end and that you need to play to win a trophy. But when you have an infinite learning mindset, you would come to the understanding that your work is an infinite game. And when you see that, you would understand that the real reward that goes with work is not in the trophy of becoming the CEO or clinching a particular level of your career ladder or achieving IOP in your business, selling your business eventually, or getting some kind of a trophy or an achievement, but that the real benefits that comes in your work is that you remain infinitely in the game and that you keep updating yourself and that you keep creating value and that you keep surpassing whatever challenge, whatever milestone that is set in your work. So these are the skills. These are some of the important concepts that you need to understand and that you need to have full grasp of in your understanding and in your action for you to really establish full control in your work as an infinite learner. Now, when it comes to exercising control over your work, there is an important concept that many people cling towards, that they go for. And it's actually very important if you're going to get to the top 1% of your career by establishing control over your work. And that is autonomy. And you see, autonomy is very important if you really want to have control over your work. What it means is that autonomy is your ability to exercise full control over how your value is deployed and how your value is utilized. That is what autonomy is all about. Now, but the real challenge with establishing autonomy in your work is that there are some kind of traps. There are traps that people fall into when they are trying to establish autonomy. Now, the first trap that people usually fall into in their quest to establish autonomy is the illusion of competence, the illusion of mastery. This happens when you fail to acquire rare and valuable skills and then you seek autonomy. Or when you leave the area of work where you have established rare and valuable skills and you leave that category, you leave that area and you go to a fresh and totally new area of work and then you try to establish autonomy without first acquiring the rare and valuable skills that are required to get you the authority that you need in that field to establish control. Carl Newport, in his book, So Good That You Cannot Be Ignored, explored this concept in full detail. And he explained that for you to really exercise full autonomy in your work, that the first and the most important thing that you need to do is to ensure that you have rare and valuable skills in your area of work. And when you do this, what it means is that you can give people a value that is so good that they cannot ignore you. And so you establish your authority in that field of work by simply exercising your full control over your skill. So this is what I talked about in the last video about exercising full control over your skill and then ensuring that you have rare and valuable skills, skills that people cannot compete against, skills that when you come out, when you show up, and when you deliver your value to people, that no one will be able to compete with you. Only when you have established this can you begin to now seek autonomy, which is an important step towards getting you the full control that you need over your work. The second trap or challenge that people fall into in their quest to exercise autonomy is when they work for the wrong person, or when they find themselves in the wrong work environment. This can be a very terrible challenge. It can really truncate your process, and it can really prevent you from getting the autonomy that you really need to exercise full control over your work. Now, how does this happen? When you work for the wrong person, or you're working in the wrong environment, it prevents you from really reaping the benefits of work, because work has a dual relationship. It's a mutually benefiting activity. In work, a species elevates its being. You grow. In work, you are challenged to grow. In work, you receive fulfillment. In work, you should receive happiness. You should receive some level of aspirational attainment that can get you to and motivate you and encourage you to keep going, irrespective of how challenging it is. Now, how do you know that you are in the right work environment? To ensure that you're working in the right environment, you want to ensure that, first and foremost, that the people you're working with are the right people. Now, how do you know that they are the right people? You want to ensure that these people share the same value systems with you. When I talk about value, I don't mean beliefs. I mean an understanding of what a work is, what constitutes a work, what constitutes your value system, what constitutes the things that you're supposed to engage in order to get a fulfilling and a meaningful work. If you're working in a factory that produces, let's say, biscuits, or that produces food items or beverages, or any kind of factory that you find yourself, and then in your value system, having a clean and green environment ranks very high, but you're working in a company that clearly violates this. What it means is that you cannot continue to grow. You cannot establish full control. When you find yourself in this kind of work environment, you are fighting against something that is very basic, and that is something that's something that nags at the core of your being and your understanding. And this is not really good for your psychology. It is not good for your well-being. It's not good for your sense of self-worth. If you find yourself in this kind of environment, you will not be able to exercise full control over your work, and then you will not be able to get to the top 1% of your career in that area of work, because clearly your value system is being violated and you cannot grow in that kind of environment. The second is when people in your work environments do not share your mission. If you have an aspirational view, a hairy, audacious goal that you are going for, something that you have planned out for yourself, the career path that you want to follow, the kind of goal or vision that you want to attain for your life, if the people in your work environment are very far off, they're going to drag you off course, and that is not really going to be great for you, because you want to be in line with your vision, you want to be in line with your mission in life and what you're pursuing, so that you can really stay focused and then and you can really grow in accordance with what goals and what mission and vision that you've set out for yourself. So you want to make sure that you are in an environment where the people support your mission and that they support your vision. Another way to determine if you're in the right environment is to consider if your work is complex enough to challenge you to grow. You see, it is important for us to understand that the essence of work is for growth. It's not really about payments. It's not really about making money. Now, making money, that's the reward that you get from your work. That's part of the process. But that isn't the whole story about work. The real essence of work is about growth, and it comes from your ability to solve friction, because every life form engages in a process of solving friction. The cells within your body are in constant quest of trying to solve the friction of metabolism in order to keep you alive, in order to keep life going. So the whole process of life is involved in friction solving, and it's in the process of solving friction. When you effectively or successfully solve a friction, then you are rewarded for that friction that you solve, so that you can continue the process of solving friction and bringing more benefits to life. So that's the whole essence of work. Work is about friction, it's about solving friction. And so it is important that you have some in your work, you have a considerable amount of friction that comes from complexity that challenges you in the process of doing that work to grow. If you do not have this, then you're going to be engaging in some kind of a banal, non-productive act of living. And this is what we see in most jobs. When you have a job where every factor in that job, every demand in that job is predictable and has been laid out, it doesn't give you any room for you to innovate. It doesn't give you any room to challenge your talents, to challenge yourself, to grow your character, to grow your intelligence. It doesn't give you any room to improve yourself. And so any work that lacks these mechanisms, this self-constructed mechanism that allows you to grow through the process of a complex system that challenges your capabilities. If your work doesn't have this, then that work is not the best kind of job for you. And so it is important that your work has some level of complexity that will challenge you to grow. That's one of the ways to know if you are in the right work environment. The final way to know if you are in the right work environment is to look out for a clear relationship between effort and reward. Because every work that human beings are engaged in, not even human beings, every life form, there is a reward mechanism in nature that allows every species that engages in the process of solving friction to get rewarded after engaging in that activity. And so if you are engaging in an activity that is in the form of a work or a job that you have, and there is no clear relationship between the efforts that you're putting in and the reward that follows it, then there is something fundamentally wrong with that kind of work you're doing. Your work has to have a considerable amount of reward system that actually compensates the efforts that you are putting out. That is a signal that you are actually putting out efforts, that you're actually solving friction. And so the essence of this reward is not just for gratification, for the purposes of gratification. It serves as a signal, something to show that an effort has been put in and that a friction has been solved. When this process has been completed, then automatically this reward system acts as some kind of a feedback that allows that keeps the whole system in check. So you want to make sure that the kind of work the work you're engaged in has this reward mechanism that is sufficient enough in order to give you the right signal or the right feedback that you need to continue the work that you're doing. So these are the characteristics or the signals that you need to have in order to determine that you are in the right working environment. And as Carl Newport pointed out in his book, So Good That They Cannot Ignore You, he mentioned that part of the mechanisms that you use to determine that if you're in the right path towards achieving autonomy is to check the financial viability of your work. Now, if you deliver value to people in the form of work that you're doing, and then the people that you've delivered this value to are willing to part with their money, they are willing to reward you for the work that you've done, then that's a right signal. That's a good signal to show you that you are actually on the right path towards autonomy. So this is called the law of financial viability. And the law simply states that you should engage in only works, in only jobs that have financial viability, that have a reward mechanism that is sufficient enough to carry you through that work. So this points back to the importance of this reward mechanism. So when we talk about financial viability, it's not just about cash, it's not just about money, but we're talking about a reward mechanism, a reward system that allows you, that appreciates and compensates equally the work, considerably the work that you're doing, so that you can continue on that path It is only when your work has sufficient financial viability that you can go on to continue doing that job. So there you have it. These are the strategies and approaches that can really help you to establish control over your work, which is very important in your establishment of full control over your career. So in summary, I want to highlight these points. For you to establish control in what you do, you need the first part, which is the most important one, to establish control over your skill. And when you have sufficiently established control over your skill, that will allow you to establish control over the second, which is your work. And when you have sufficiently established control over your work, then you're going to move over to the next step, which is securing control over your environment. And that is the topic that I'm going to be treating in my next video. So that's my message for you today. Thanks so much for being with me throughout this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. And if you are seeing this on Facebook, I also encourage you to hit the notification button and like my page, so that whenever these messages drop every week, like I drop them every week, you'll be the first to get it. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a Facebook page that is called Clear Thinking Forum. And in this page, this is where I share my theories, concepts, and my reflections on how to get to the top 1% of your career, the things that you need to do to get to the top 1% of your career. So I encourage you to join the Facebook group. It's called Clear Thinking Forum, and you are sure to be getting more of my content, videos and articles that can help you in your career, in your work, and in your business. So thank you so much for joining me in this edition of Clear Thinking Digest, and I'll see you in the next video.